Before you spend another second doom-scrolling through AI-generated slop, let me blow your mind with the ultimate historical tea. You think Sam Bankman-Fried was bad? You think Logan Paul's Cryptozoo was a scam? Hold my leaded wine, because George Washington just pulled off the greatest long-term rug pull in human history. And we're still paying the gas fees 250 years later? This is your boy at Midnight Meme Historian, where we turn dusty history into viral content that hits harder than your ex sliding back into your DI miss today. We re-exposing how the father of our country was actually the world's first influencer scammer, and why his Revolutionary War was basically a failed Web3 project that somehow became too big to fail. Smash that subscribe button if you want more historical truth bombs that your teachers were too scared to tell you. Let's start with some context, because y'all need to understand, George Washington was unto some noble farm boy who reluctantly answered the call of duty. Nah, fam. This dude was born into the colonial equivalent of generational wealth. He was basically a trust fund kid with a surveying degree and massive main character energy. Picture this. It's the 1750s, and young George is out here mapping other people's land, getting that early location data, if you know what I mean. Yes, like those LinkedIn influencers who post about hustle culture while their daddy pays their rent. Just closed! Another surveying deal. Hashtag blessed, hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag Langren set. But here, that's where it gets spicy. Washington's first taste of military action was literally starting a war by accident. The French and Indian War? Yeah, that began because our boy George attacked some French diplomats thinking they were spies. It's giving major! I didn't mean to start drama, but here we are, energy. Imagine starting World War III because you misread a DM. The British were like, George, what have you done? Washington. My bad. But did you see my engagement rates, though? This man was collecting failures like Pokemon cards, but somehow spinning each L into a W through pure charisma and political connections. He lost more battles than a bronze-ranked League of Legends player, but he had that secret sauce. He knew how to build a personal brand. Now let's talk about how Washington positioned himself for the ultimate comeback story. After the French and Indian War, he went back to Virginia and started his real business. Becoming a landlord. This man was buying up land faster than people by limited edition sneakers during a drop. He owned over 50,000 acres by the time the revolution started. For context, that's bigger than most European countries. He was essentially running a medieval feudal system but with better marketing. But here's where the genius comes in. Washington married Martha Custis, one of the richest widows in Virginia. It's giving strategic partnership for mutual benefit vibes. Martha brought 17,000 acres and 300 enslaved people to the marriage. In today's terms, that's like marrying into a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Fun fact. Washington became one of the richest men in America through marriage, land speculation, and what we'd now call aggressive real estate investment strategies. He was basically the original house-flipping influencer, except instead of flipping houses, he was flipping entire territories. The British kept raising taxes to pay for their wars, including the one Washington accidentally started, and our boy George was like, wait, you want me to pay taxes on my land speculation gains? That's not very cash money of you, Britain. Here's where Washington's masterpiece begins. The Revolutionary War was on some spontaneous uprising of oppressed people. It was a carefully orchestrated initial coin offering by America's wealthiest elites, and Washington was the charismatic frontman they needed. Think about it. They created a new token called Liberty. Promised it would moon. Got a bunch of retail investors, poor colonists, to buy in with their lives and savings, while the founders kept the majority of tokens for themselves. The White Paper, also known as the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident equals. Trust us, bro. All men are created equal. Equals terms and conditions apply. See fine print. Life. Liberty. And the pursuit of happiness equals number, go up. Washington wasn't even supposed to be the face of this project initially. He was like the third or fourth choice for commander-in-chief. But he showed up to the Continental Congress in his old military uniform like he was cosplaying his own resume. The other delegates. Why is George wearing his old uniform to a political meeting? Washington's inner monologue. Because I'm about to get the biggest bag of my career? That's why. The Continental Congress was basically a Discord server full of wealthy landowners, trying to figure out how to avoid paying taxes while making it sound like a moral crusade. Washington stepped up like, "Gentlemen, I accept this position not for personal gain, but for the good of—" "Okay, fine. I'll do it for equity in the new country." The Continental Army was like a tech startup that's constantly running out of funding. Washington was the CEO, desperately trying to keep his employees from quitting, while the Continental Congress, kept promising funding that never came. Typical Continental Army experience. No salary, 4 months. Check. Terrible working conditions. Check. Management keeps promising big things coming. Check. Half the team quits every quarter. Check. Somehow still expected to compete with industry leaders, the British Army. Check. Washington's genius was in crisis management. Every time the project was about to collapse, he'd pull some publicity stunt to get more funding. Valley Forge was a testament to American resilience. It was a survival horror stream that somehow got enough donations to keep going. Washington, to his troops. "Guys, I know you haven't been paid in 6 months and you're eating tree bark. But check out this sick crossing the Delaware content we're about to drop. It's going to be legendary. Let's talk about the most overrated military maneuver in history. Washington crossing the Delaware River. This was some brilliant strategic masterstroke. This was a desperate content. Creator pulling a dangerous stunt for views. Picture this. It's December 1776. The Revolutionary War eco is tanking hard. People are selling their Liberty tokens. The community is losing faith, and Washington needs a major pump to save his project from complete collapse. So what does he do? He stages the most elaborate photo shoot in pre-photography history. The planning meeting. Washington. Okay, team. We need something that'll trend for literally centuries. Hamilton. What about a surprise attack? Washington. Better. A surprise attack that looks iconic. Get me an artist. I want this moment immortalized. We're going full influencer mode. The actual crossing was a logistical nightmare. Imagine trying to coordinate a complex military operation in freezing weather with soldiers who haven't been paid, using boats that were probably leaking, guided by a GPS system that consisted of follow the North Star and pray. Well, the painting shows Washington standing heroically in a boat, pointing toward destiny. What actually happened? Washington probably spent the entire crossing trying not to vomit, while his officers argued about directions. But here's the genius part. Washington understood that perception is reality. That crossing created the most powerful military meme in American history. Even today, 250 years later, that image is still generating engagement. The Hessians they attacked were literally just trying to enjoy their Christmas party. Imagine you're having a holiday celebration and suddenly a bunch of freezing, desperate entrepreneurs burst in talking about disrupting the monarchy. It's giving major startup founder crashes established companies board meeting energy. Hessian commander. Who are these people and why are they so wet? Washington. We're here to talk to you about your monarchy's extended warranty. This whole surprise attack was less a military masterpiece and more a desperate Hail Mary pass from a team down by 50 points in the fourth quarter. It worked, sure, but mainly because the other team was asleep at the wheel, probably distracted by a new season of Real Housewives of 18th century Europe. It was a temporary pump for the Freedom Token, a much-needed morale boost. But it didn't solve the underlying economic and logistical shitshow that was the Continental Army. But hey, it looked good on the highlight reel, and that's all that really matters, isn't it? What made Washington different from other military leaders wasn't his tactical genius. Because, let's be real, his win-loss record was ROUGH. It was his understanding of personal branding in an age before social media. This man turned himself into America's first lifestyle influencer. Every portrait, every public appearance, every piece of correspondence was carefully curated to project an image of reluctant leadership and moral authority. Washington's brand strategy. Number 1. The reluctant leader aesthetic. I don't want power. but I guess I'll sacrifice myself for the greater good. Classic reverse psychology. Number 2. The simple farmer persona. Despite owning massive estates, he positioned himself as just a humble agricultural entrepreneur. Number 3. The stoic father figure. Never showed weakness in public. Always projected. Authority. Number 4. The moral high ground. Constantly talked about virtue and honor while building personal wealth. He was basically running the 18th century equivalent of a lifestyle brand. Mount Vernon, living with George Washington, teaching you how to manage a plantation, lead a revolution, and maintain work-life balance. Here's where Washington pulled off the most galaxy brain marketing move in political history. After winning the war and becoming the first president, when people wanted to make him king, he said, "Nah, I'm good. I'm gonna go back to my farm. Everyone else." Wait, you're giving up unlimited power? Washington. Yeah, it's called having principles. Very exclusive concept you wouldn't understand. This move was genius because it cemented his reputation as the ultimate leader. Someone who wielded power responsibly and gave it up voluntarily. It's like if Jeff Bezos suddenly announced he was retiring to focus on his garden. The scarcity principle in action. But let's keep it real. Washington wasn't walking away from power, he was transforming it. By stepping down voluntarily, he became immortal. His image, his story, his brand became more powerful than any temporary political position. So what was the result of Washington's ultimate grift? He successfully created a country based on the revolutionary idea that wealthy landowners should have to pay taxes to a distant government. Instead, they'd create their own government where they could collect the taxes. The American system Washington created: democracy with terms and conditions applied. See voter qualification requirements. Freedom that does not apply to enslaved people, Native Americans, women, or poor people. Equality of opportunity to be exploited by local elites instead of foreign ones. Washington's American experiment was basically a proof of concept for wealthy elites to run their own country without interference from European monarchs. It was the ultimate decentralized autonomous organization. Except the governance tokens were distributed exclusively to white male property owners. Fast forward to 2025, and we're still living in the system Washington designed. The same families that funded his revolution became America's first The same land speculation schemes he used became the foundation of American real estate markets. The same propaganda techniques he pioneered became the blueprint for modern political marketing. Washington's lasting innovations. Political theater. Making governance into entertainment. Celebrity leadership, the idea that charisma matters more than competence, wealth, virtue signaling. Rich people positioning themselves as moral leaders. Revolutionary branding, packaging, self-interest. As public service, today's tech billionaires and political influencers are all running variations of Washington's playbook. Create a crisis, position yourself as the solution, build a cult of personality, profit from the chaos, then position your self-interest as moral necessity. Here is why understanding Washington's grifts is crucial for navigating 2025, because the same patterns are happening right now. Modern Washington's tech CEOs who position themselves as humanity's saviors while building monopolies. Political leaders who claim to represent the people while serving elite interests. Influencers who build movements around their personal brands. Anyone who says, "I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for us," while accumulating massive personal wealth. The playbook hasn't changed. Step 1. Identify a genuine grievance or problem. Step 2. Position yourself as the reluctant but necessary solution. Step 3. Build a coalition of people who will benefit from your success. Step 4. Use propaganda and emotional appeals to get mass support. Step 5. Implement your solution in a way that primarily benefits you and your allies. Step 6. Spin the results as a victory for everyone. Washington was evil. He was just the first person to perfect this system at a national level. He understood that people don't follow systems or ideas. They follow stories and personalities. The real lesson of George Washington isn't that he was a great leader, though he was effective. It is that he understood something fundamental about human nature. People want to believe they re part of something bigger than themselves, and they'll follow whoever tells the most compelling story about that bigger thing. Washington's Revolutionary War wasn't about freedom. It was about who gets to control the levers of power and profit, but he packaged it as a story about liberty, justice, and moral righteousness. And that story was so compelling that we're still telling it 250 years later. The metal lesson. Every revolution is just a rebranding of power structures. And the winners write the history books to make themselves look like heroes. So, there you have it! You beautiful collections of questionable life choices. George Washington wasn't the father of our country. He was the world's first political influence who successfully scaled a local tax protest into a global brand that is still generating revenue centuries later. His Mount Vernon estate. That's the OG Creator House. His farewell address. The original. Thanks for the memories Instagram post. His face on the dollar bill. The ultimate NFT that everyone has to interact with daily. But here's the thing. Understanding this doesn't make America bad or Washington evil. It makes them human. And understanding how power actually works, not how we retold it works, is the key to not getting grifted by the next charismatic leader promising to solve all your problems. The real American revolutionary spirit is unblind patriotism. It has the ability to see through bullshit and think critically about power structures. So the next time someone tries to sell you on their revolutionary new system, their disruptive technology, their movement to save humanity, ask yourself, is this person the next George Washington? Because if they are, you might want to read the fine print before you buy into their eco. Smash that subscribe button if you want more. Historical truth bombs that LL make you the smartest person at every dinner party. Hit the notification bell so you never miss our takes on history's greatest grifters, scammers, and accidental geniuses. Drop a comment. Who do you think is the modern George Washington? Which current leader is running the same playbook? Let's discuss in the comments. But keep it civil, unlike the actual Revolutionary War. Next week, we've breaking down how Napoleon turned being short in French into the ultimate comeback story. And why his marketing strategy could teach modern CEOs a thing or two about brand building through conquest. Until next time, this has been Midnight Meme Historian reminding you that history doesn't repeat, but it sure as hell rhymes. And it always rhymes in favor of whoever asks writing the checks.